We are not ready for what's coming. And we need to think about our next steps very carefully, lest we all get lost in the darkness.
We're going up!
Get me into space.
Hey, good to see you. And just wait. I know how it looks.
Anything a kilometer underground, anything is going to be harmless there.
Yeah.
You work for an AI, and then an AI wire transferred you funds into your account, and then you have a machine daddy.
Oh, yeah, your download speed is fast today.
Kyle Hill, everybody! He's the next generation of science communicator.
We are here on set to find the next generation of people to do just that.
This is a nuclear reactor, and it's made out of glass.
Thank you all for having me. If you told me that the Thor that you bought off Temu would be here at the IAA, I wouldn't have believed you.
Great science and cutting-edge science creates amazing art and science fiction and ways to push our thinking in society further.
This radioactive piece of Trinita, a tangible timestamp of the millisecond that we entered the nuclear age.
Are you the monarch? Because I'm crowning.
You can't irradiate the radiation.
Tell you a nice joke. A robot walks into a bar.
No!
How do you look more CP
What's the
than me,
advantage
though?
of, what's the utility, why is this fun? Look at all that crap on the screen, sick. Oh, I can't believe I pre-ordered the premium edition. Oh.
I'm a little afraid it's too matchy-matchy, but Chad, I do like it.
Get in, get nerdy, get with your boy here.
Learn, play, and win the science victory.
Kyle Hill in the chat. Oh my God, that guy's hot. It's like Legolas from Lord of the Rings.
2 chicken tendies. No. Hold the chicken.
Chad, welcome. I hope you're as enraptured as I am for the return of some live office hours action. Happy to have you here. Happy to have everyone here on Twitch and YouTube. Whatever your viewing preference be. We're also joined by Gregory over up there in the corner. He's a baleen whale, not a tooth whale, so he ingests the water and then pushes it out against his little feathery teeth, and then he... Anyway, welcome. Surprise Bioshock stream? No. Today we discuss some more sciencey things. Today we'll be getting into some science news, some science communication drama, even though I don't really partake in the drama. I think as a fellow science communicator, I have some things that maybe you might find my perspective interesting, or maybe you want to know what I have to say as a fellow guy. And a little later on, I would love to go through a study with you, as I'm like to do. I'd like to go through a study with you about the ultimate limit of the human lifespan. I love having numbers for things because that's the way my brain works. And I love that a new study just came out that used different models of cellular regeneration and DNA and mutation and death to estimate what is the upper limit on the lifespan of a human. And I've been reading the Dune series recently, and maybe that's just why I'm concerned with a person living for 3,500 years. I don't know, but I'd like to go through that with you today. We will not be spending all of our time in Rapture. We'll get to the facility presently, but oops. Kevin, turn it back up. No, turn it down a little bit. Thank you. And keep your door open. I don't trust you with her in there. She's got all that white face paint with that goth trend that everyone's doing on Instagram.
But those Instagram recommendations are based on your likes and searches.
Yeah, shush. We'll get to it, but also, since we haven't been doing this sciencey stream for a couple of months, if you have any questions as we go through it, we'll be getting to it. Of course. But where are we doing all of that, you say? I'll show you. Welcome. We'll be talking about deoxyribonucleic... I've had a lot of caffeine. Deoxyribonucleic acid today, as you can see in my giant DNA here inside the facility. I'm not even sure what this little guy is. I just know that he's fascinating. Like Kevin Hart. Small and interesting. Yeah, okay. So, Chad, the first thing I would like to do is get into some nuclear-related news. Then we will talk about Mr. Green, and then I want to go through a study with you, for sure. I'm not going to yap about Mr. Green. I have some... we have the same job, and so I thought maybe... it'd be interesting to hear my perspective of it. Thank you, Liquid, for the 5. Did I take the wrong message from your Idaho National Lab video? It sounds like the tech bro move fast and break things mentality. That doesn't sound good for nuclear. If you want to check out I interviewed the U.S. Secretary of Energy on this channel in our last video, and I try to keep it pretty neutral about my own opinions on how they are moving, how they are changing regulations, and what all these companies are doing. That's for you to infer. It's complicated. It's a complicated thing. For Dr. Professor Scientist Kyleman, I must protest that DNA is far too large to put into any creature's cells. Maybe the creatures you're aware of. Let's get into it. Let's lower the volume to an acceptable volume. I look like, with this white shirt, I look like Asmongold, but attractive. 4 videos and 1 thumbnail is too much for me. I don't know. Oh, well, I just made that thumbnail really quick. We're talking about stuff. Chad, welcome. First thing I want to talk about today is something interesting that was just discovered in Japan, in Hiroshima specifically. Hiroshima blast debris reveals a previously unknown alloy. And I like that this this news story about it opens with, oh, hey, yeah, before we get into it, this was one of the most devastating things that has ever happened. That I no longer, like I used to do in my Because Science days, I no longer liken the energy of things or the power of things to Hiroshima detonations, because A, no one really has a sense for the energy behind a nuclear blast, no intuitive understanding of that, and B, or two, it's one of the worst things that anyone's ever experienced. So I don't like to use it as some connective tissue when it doesn't need any there. But what's interesting is that some scientists, and the studies here, and all the studies will be in the description today, of course. What appeared to have happened during the Hiroshima blast, or Hiroshima, I've heard it both ways, is within milliseconds of a nuclear detonation, and this was the Little Boy bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima on July 16th, 1945, in an airburst, and that's very important. Little Boy bomb was a gun-type nuclear weapon, and so it had nuclear material, subcritical nuclear material at one end of the bomb, and then a bullet, if you want to call it that, of the rest of the nuclear material to make it go critical at the other end of the bomb. And when the bomb detonated, that conventional explosion forced the two pieces of metal together and they became instantly supercritical. And then there was not an uncountable, but trillions and trillions of fission reactions releasing their energy basically within milliseconds, almost instantaneously. And that creates, within the first few milliseconds, a giant fireball of plasma. The plasma being the superheated air by the radiation coming out, the kinetic energy of the products of the blast, all of that. And when that happened, when that fireball spread out, the heat vaporized bits of everything. The study doesn't say everything, but it was everything. But what they found was that apparently it seems that brought up into this fireball were parts of the buildings of Hiroshima. And as it was vaporized, it rapidly cooled, kind of like how lava, liquid hot magma is shot out of a volcano and very quickly cools, giving it like a weird crystalline structure. This is what we call obsidian or volcano glass. Obsidian, fun fact, can get so sharp that a blade of obsidian or just an edge of obsidian can get just a couple atoms thick, like 3 atoms thick on an edge. That's what makes it so sharp. I think that's kind of cool. But before you ask me, no, it doesn't make for a great sword because obsidian is also very, very brittle owing to its atomic structure and how it's formed. Anyway, the fireball over Hiroshima vaporized metals of the buildings, concrete, the ground, some of the ground, people. But those organics wouldn't have remained because of the temperature. So they took an electron microprobe, and they found these little let's call them little blobby kind of pellets on the shores of Hiroshima or Hiroshima. And inside these little blobby, glassy kind of pellets, they found silicon-rich multi-element composition, iron, chromium, nickel, manganese, molybdenum, silicon, aluminum. And it looked like this. And what analyzing interesting structures like this, it gives scientists an idea on how different alloys can come together, maybe that they never considered, and what their material properties are after they come together. Now, I wanted to point out this story because I've been to Hiroshima. Hiroshima is awesome, by the way. I spent a full week in the Fukushima exclusion zone in Japan in 2023? 2024? I forget. And Hiroshima is an amazing city. It is another reason why I don't take comparisons to Hiroshima lightly anymore, is the Peace Museum, or the museum of the aftermath of the explosion there in the center of the city. It is really sobering. It is really rough. It's really... Yeah, it's something I recommend everyone go see it sometime in their lives. But so this was really interesting. And because I've been to the city and we made one of our most popular videos ever is about why Hiroshima isn't a nuclear wasteland. It's actually a question I got before I went to Japan. Why isn't Hiroshima radioactive? Today, if it's the only offensively nuclear obliterated city, aside from Nagasaki, of course. And that is because you can watch the video, but it's because it was an airburst, and so it didn't suck up metric tons and tons of material that the radioactive fission products and the radioactive pieces of metal could adhere to in this plasma fireball, and then once they get cooled down and too heavy, they literally fall out. That's what fallout is. There was minimal fallout because it didn't have all that extra vaporized material inside of the fireball, and they did that on purpose. The United States did that on purpose because they wanted maximum damage and not long-term, maximum immediate damage and not long-term damage to the city. The military, one of the leaders of the military was reportedly very fond of Kyoto, and had a soft spot for Japan. Not soft enough, I suppose, but airbursts create the most immediate damage to. Does anyone know what this is? Nick in Texas has been to the museum. Yeah. In the Hiroshima Museum, they cut out a block of concrete that has one of those people shadows on it. Does anyone know what this is? Patterson OBJ on YouTube and Pathshaper immediately get it right on Twitch. This is Trinitite. Yes, this is Trinitite. Sorry. I gave the date for the bombing of Hiroshima as the Trinity test. It's I get it wrong because actually in history they're only separated by a few weeks. So the Trinity test, the thing that was in Oppenheimer, the Trinity test occurred on July 16th, 1945, and then just a few weeks later on August 6th, Hiroshima was bombed, and then August 9th, 1945, Nagasaki was bombed. But on July 16th, the world changed forever. And as a long-term artifact of that change, this is Trinitite. This is the exact same thing as those Hiroshima little crystal globules. And it's what happened when a giant fireball in the middle of the desert turned the sand into glass. It is illegal to go to the test site and remove Trinitite. However, you can still find Trinitite, and I no longer have it here. I have it in a different wing of the facility, but I do have a piece of Trinitite myself. Is it radioactive? Not really. It doesn't even make it through the little glass that I have it in. But this is another example of exactly what they just found in Japan, which I thought was interesting. Which reminded me of another man-made nuclear-related thing that I just found in Ukraine a couple weeks ago. These are artificial stalactites. Has anyone ever seen those before? So it is a calthemites, they're called, technically. And this is what happens when you let decades of water move through buildings that normally shouldn't have water being moved through them. But of course, Pripyat, there we go. Pripyat is abandoned. And so 40 years worth of environment has been moving through the city. And as the water moves across the concrete, it erodes and takes with it some of the minerals. And when it drops down, the water drops, but some of those minerals stay behind. And then over the last 40 years, these calthemites have formed. This is in the city of Pripyat, and this was in April, so just a couple of weeks ago. Liz Calvert, thank you for the 10. My tiny human question of the week says, Nokia brick phones are indestructible. I don't think that's true. How many newtons of force to destroy one? I would go look up the hydraulic press channel and watch them press one of those. But so a lot of ways that nuclear stuff can literally change the ground that you walk on. And this is just adding to that, the history of the atomic explosion. But getting, it's an artifact of those first few milliseconds of absolute wanton destruction in Japan, frozen in time. And that's why I find them really compelling little objects, which is why I find Trinitite compelling as well. Before we move on to our next topic, Kansas, we'll talk about Hank in a second. What are you guys talking about? You made a claim, defend it. What do you mean? Same with modern versus low background steel. I actually have a Half-Life history already researched. I didn't use ChatGPT, but I researched that already because that's a fascinating. What the chatter is talking about is that steel made before 1945 is highly sought after in super precise, high precision medical instruments and scientific instruments because it has no trace amounts of radioactivity from radioactive testing that happened throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And apparently divers are going and destroying old World War II ships to get this steel, and it's becoming it is a problem, and I thought that'd be interesting. But that will be a Half-Life history. Speaking of which, I just recorded the next Half-Life history, which is about a fatality that occurred in Estonia after the failure to properly secure some nuclear waste. That'll be the next one. Well, that's what they're studying, Pathshaper, on Twitch. Can we reproduce those materials, and is there some practical use for them? That is what they're studying. Seems like a lot of people are arguing. You would trade hair with Kyle? A lot of people's girlfriends would trade hair with me. Yeah, okay. Well, it seems like I know that this was going to be the most contentious topic, so let's just get to it. Hank and his AI use. So let's be super clear up front about a couple of things. One, I have met Hank once. He was incredibly nice. I met him at a convention called Open Sauce, which is great. And we embraced each other like we had never met before, but we embraced under shared science guy circumstances. I'm like, come here. And he's like, come here. So, we had a great time. Super nice guy. I think he is one of the best science communicators that we have. And I think he's extremely intelligent. Two, up front, just because people are going to ask me. No, I have never used AI in any content generation for any of my science communication. I have never even used an AI agent. I don't know how to do that. I guess you just go to a website and sign up. I don't know. Outside of what Google has become, I have never personally asked or interacted with any AI model. And that is because of the pitfalls that we're about to talk about. So, if you're unfamiliar, Hank is one of the best science communicators that we have, and this will be important for later. He's also one of the most prolific. He puts out a mountain of content. He has a nonprofit, Complexly, SciShow, a lot of other outfits, and I think on the whole, he does great work. And having a nonprofit and doing science communication with it, I think, is incredible. He's someone that has influenced a lot of communicators over the years. Okay. So that being said, recently, last weekend, Hank said he was pausing the production of a couple of channels because people were asking, and then he admitted to using ChatGPT specifically, but AI models while researching some videos for his various shows. And what he says specifically is that he does not use AI to write his scripts. He uses it for research and to collate things and to look for new papers. that is, and this is on Reddit, on Nerd Fighters Reddit 4 days ago. I produced this under a ton of pressure, so I went and checked my entire process. I did use ChatGPT for research on this script in a video that was in question. And watching it, it definitely did have an AI feel, so I think it's fair to say I was relying too much on generated notes. That's a thing I've been doing, and it's a bad habit at a time when I've overcommitted myself. Now, some thoughts that I have here. No, Arya's real AGI. She has a body and everything. Don't worry about that. Emo Panda says, my name is Kyle. Who cares? Cool. Amazing contribution to the discussion. Why does this matter, Emo Panda? Why am I talking about that? Why am I talking about this? Why did this make the internet news? It is because science communication, being a public intellectual specifically, and I say this to all young communicators, being a good science communicator lives and dies on the public's perception of your expertise and your credibility. Unlike a lot of other professions, using a tool that substitutes some amount of intelligence for your own, or substituting some of your intelligence for something else's intelligence, specifically in science communication, is toxic. It's people have a toxic reaction to it because that perspective, your ingestion of the data as a communicator, and then your communication of the data is what people want from you. And if you use a tool that shortcuts that process, you are removing some of that utility from you as a communicator and outsourcing it to something else. And that feels very icky to people, feels disingenuous. So my thoughts on it are, I'm not surprised, to be honest. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed. And I'm not surprised because, like we said at the beginning, Hank puts out so many videos, God bless him, that, and he says this, he says, I overcommitted. And he strikes me as the kind of person who's a workaholic. Very committed, wants to do a bunch of things all the time, all at once, go, go, go. He strikes me as that kind of person. So the fact that once there was a tool to make all of that easier, a very hard job easier, I'm not surprised that he has started to rely on it, or did rely on it, to a point which he has said that even his family has said they were concerned about how much he was using it. Now, I'm disappointed. So I'm not surprised, because that's almost too much good stuff to put out without some help. I'm disappointed because ostensibly Hank has an entire team of humans who do this. And if you're overcommitted to the point that you feel like you need to use something that you know, you're a very smart guy, Hank, you know 95% of your audience is going to crucify you for this. You have to know that. And so I'm disappointed that, knowing that and knowing you're overcommitted, you don't hire more humans. I was saying this to Mike Evans the other day. If you have a job, a public science communication, health communication job, and you feel like you can't do it without AI, maybe don't do it. And this is not to say that if your job has AI, you should quit it or anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you know this is a This is a radioactive subject and topic that specifically a science enthusiastic audience is going to really care about. You should stay as far away from it as possible and stay as authentic as possible, at least in this moment, until we get through the birthing pains of whatever AI is going to be. Keep this with a 10-foot pole away from your scripts, away from your research, away from everything, and hire humans. That's why I'm a little disappointed, because I would have expected him to take that approach. The news story should be here. What I wish this said was Hank Green doesn't use AI for anything at his company. Instead, he hired 10 new interns straight out of college to work on SciShow or something to make up the difference in the power that he could have from AI. Instead of using AI, he hired 10 college students to do a class project for a SciShow video or something. You know, that's what this should be. And that's hard to swallow a little bit. Yeah. So I want to ask you guys about all of this as well, because I think it's interesting. But again, as a fellow professional science communicator for a living who runs a company with many Kevins at it as well, this seems like a huge own goal to me, where you have to know that this was eventually going to be a huge problem. And if the amount of content you quote unquote need to put out makes you make the deal with the devil, maybe there's other things that you could change. Yeah. And to be honest, chat, if even, and does he say this here? And again, I'm not close with Hank, and I'm not close with him. Again, he was super nice to me. Seems like an extremely smart guy. But it's this. If there's anything that I'm still a little, I want Hank to succeed. I don't want him to be canceled. He's one of our best. I think he will recalibrate, but he said he only uses ChatGPT to find new research papers. He doesn't use them to write scripts or make content. But then when you also say your family has told you that they don't think what you're doing is healthy, am I wrong in that sounding like you use ChatGPT for everything all the time? If my own brother, who I love very much, if my own brother came to me and said, "Hey man, you're talking to AI too much," that sounds like it goes beyond, "Hey, give me the top 10 medical papers." You know? And so there's still, I just have a little bit of questioning behind this, because this doesn't sound like you only use AI for one thing one time. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, if your family thinks it's unhealthy, sounds like you use it for everything all the time. But I don't know. I'm not accusing him of anything. It's just, it reads that way. Hank, I became 14 years old again. Hank, if anyone clips this or you ever see this or anything, again, I think you were one of the best to ever do it. I look up to you. I take cues on how to do my own job from you. Your business is amazing, all that stuff. But if you have burdened yourself with trying to do as much good as possible, and I know that's what you want to do, maybe for the health of you and your audience, just pull back just a little bit. We would rather have less stuff from you and for you to be good, my man, than have the most stuff and your family to be concerned about your mental health. Always. That's what we would prefer. I think I said everything that I wanted to say. It just, seems like a very unfortunate own goal to me. Ivy, thank you for the 20. If you haven't, please visit the Herbert Art Gallery, Peace and Reconciliation Gallery in Coventry, UK. I saw it in the 90s and I never forgot it. Coventry, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Dresden. And it's explored there. Good recommendation. Good recommendation. Thank you. Oh, that's a good question. The Ghost Who Plays over on YouTube says, is there a reasonable way to use AI or should it never be touched? Now, Hank has said, and I will say, there are probably good uses for AI, and uses where no one's going to really care. Like if you go into an auto mechanic, if you go into a car shop, you bring your car in there and they use AI to perfectly recalibrate all of the firings and motions and belts in your engine, I don't think anyone's going to care. Right? No one's going to care. But if a trusted science communicator whose personality and mental processes you value specifically because it is them, if they outsource some of them to something else, you feel cheated in a way. And so good science communication, I don't think is the use case, but there are going to be good use cases. I just think, and I've made many videos on this at this point, I can think of 1,000 bad use cases for every one good use case. I think AI needs to be heavily globally regulated immediately. I think it should slow down. I think artificial general intelligence shouldn't be an arms race towards it. I think it should be illegal, probably, because if anyone builds it, everyone dies. There are going to be totally fine use cases and no one's going to care. Unfortunately, and this is again why I'm disappointed, this seems like an obvious use case, and this should have been obvious to Hank, and it wasn't. And that's and so you're like, well, come on, man. If anyone, I thought you wouldn't. It seems kind of obvious. And that is what I have never used an AI agent for anything. That's just I searched the search bar in Adobe Acrobat once, and it was like a 400-page study, and I said, what does this term mean? Because I looked for an hour and I literally could not find what does D sub T mean? What is D? And it was like, oh, it's on page 50. And I was like, okay. It's the one time I've ever used any AI agent integrated in a thing, but other than that, I don't use it. But also, to play devil's advocate, I also don't have the reach or content schedule or impact that Hank currently has. But as my friend Adam Savage says, you can only sell your integrity once. Do you have a sister or relative working for science? I suppose, but I did actually start my science communication career at Scientific American. I had a blog there in 2012. That is the first thing that I published publicly, I think. And I don't want to. I'm glad that no one's really digging on Hank here. We want everyone to be smart about this, but I still want to see what you guys think. Oh, I had a question. And again, this goes back to introspection, and maybe it was just an unhealthy usage and, AI psychosis kind of thing. But Chet, would you be more disappointed? This is a genuine, turn it down. This is a genuine question. Would you be more disappointed if I or someone else completely word for word plagiarized an entire script, and I've accidentally plagiarized sentences and paragraphs before when using large volumes of notes. Hank is not the only, no one's immune to this kind of thing. It's like, oh, I didn't attribute that to the author correctly, and now I look like... Anyway, would you rather someone completely steal a script or someone completely AI a script and put it out there? What is worse? Because and I'll let you answer, my intuition is that people 3 years ago would have said plagiarism is worse, but now seeing how much AI is integrated into everything, my intuition is that most people would say that AI is worse. I'm seeing like 50-50. About equal? I still think plagiarism is worse. I don't know why my bot on YouTube is grabbing that. Sorry. That's a weird one. AI is definitely worse. AI is just advanced plagiarism. Knowingly plagiarizing is worse. What's the difference? See, no, but isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that we're now in a point in our technological development where those are equivalent to a lot of you? Isn't that crazy? Is that where we really want to be? You know what I mean? Isn't that wild? Well, thank you, Crazed. I like having conversations with you all. I mean, that's not just me talking at you. I want to know what you have to say. AI, because it also is doing plagiarism. AI also plagiarizes. AI is worse. Man up and steal it yourself. Yeah, isn't that interesting? That's real. It's interesting that we are there now. When people would say that might be the same, if not worse, than full on ripping someone's stuff. That's wild that we're in that spot. And again, this was when I asked you the question, because this was my intuition that people would be the public acceptance of AI and its use is like 99% negative. And I don't know how Hank, a man who seems like he lives and breathes the internet, did not read the room on that. I also do what he does for a living. He does more of it in more places, but I can tell you that you can do it without it too. You know? I don't know. It's a complicated topic. Made more complicated by if your family is worried that you use AI too much, I think you're probably using AI too much for more than just requesting a paper. You know? I don't want him canceled. I want him to keep producing. It's a learning experience. Using AI to organize or write your own script based on your own notes is fine. Not to me, Zertmaster on YouTube, not to me. Because AI looks backward. It takes everything, AI currently, LLMs take everything that it was trained on, its corpus, its body of data, and then extrapolates what is the next best word in the sentence after the question you asked me based on the weights of what it found, the patterns it found in the training data. And so when I'm writing the new Half-Life history script, at the same time I'm reading the first 4 Dune books, I'm on book 4 of Dune, he's a worm now. Could an AI suddenly add to my new Half-Life history script some Frank Herbert style flourishes in writing? Could it suddenly start changing sentence structures to be more like some of the best science fiction ever written? Does it have a flash of insight like that? No. No, it doesn't. And that is what the artist has that AI doesn't have. The artist has experience and introspection, and the artist butts heads with the world, and art comes out of that. Art through adversity with the universe. And AI doesn't have that. AI is not it's not a person, it's not a thing, it didn't just so happen to just go through a breakup while it was writing the next sentence, or wasn't thinking about the vistas on Mount Everest when it was making that next brushstroke. None of that happens, you know. I don't know. I'm waxing philosophical here, but I think you know what I mean. And if AI ever gets to that point, is anyone going to want it? There are going to be use cases. Your accountant. Okay, I'll give you a good use case, because it sounds like I'm just pooping on AI, which I am, but I'll give you a good use case. Right now, it seems that AI is way better at detecting abnormalities in X-rays and other medical diagnostics. Well, of course it is. It can look at every single pixel individually and then compare those collection of pixels to every X-ray ever taken of a human person and say, hey, that's probably a tumor. And it's already been shown that AI are much better at identifying abnormalities in X-rays than radiologists. Now, if you can demonstrate that, I don't think anybody is going to care. In the limit, if you can show that an AI is very, very good at this, I don't think anyone's going to care that an AI does the first pass of your X-ray, flags it for a doctor, and then the doctor looks. That's fine. That seems, yeah, sure. Have the machine look at it, and if it flags something, then the doctor looks at it. That's not that crazy. That's not that crazy. But if you want your favorite science guy to explain something to you, it's different. I saw a comment. Someone pushing back on Ice Metal Punk over on the YouTube says, Kyle, AI is currently more like that human insight than you think it is. I would suggest looking into interpretability of studies and learning more about the training process. Okay. But what if it doesn't tell the doctor how it came to that conclusion? Well, it would be, in my example here with reading X-rays, the AI would be another step in the process. Like, make sure, like, regardless of what the doctor thinks, run it through the machine that's perfect at detecting things and see if it flags anything too. It's like a second pair of eyes, except it doesn't have eyes. But not generative AI, Kyle. Do you have any good use cases where generative AI is something no one would care about? That's a hard one. Because generative AI, you're usually talking about some kind of art, right? We need another Bulletarian jihad. Muad'Dib. Yeah, MatterGen and AlphaFold, says Mats are on YouTube. Those are good use case examples. Using AI to go through an uncountable number of different protein foldings to do some base level scientific research that would take researchers and their postdocs 1,000 years to do. Seems okay. Look at, sorry, I always have a fan on me, and so I always get a little dramatic here. I do still want to go through this very interesting how long can humans possibly live study. But yeah. Sorry. I'm like a nuclear reactor. I have a lot of decay heat, and if I'm not actively cooled, then I melt down. On stream, I crash out. Except it's my blood pressure crashing. If you refuse to use AI in 5 years, you'll be working at a Starbucks. Are you on the side of the machines? What do you think of the AI use in the Devil Wears Prada movie? Oh, I didn't even know about that. Look, can AI solve Navier-Stokes? I'll take it. Rather than looking up on that chart every single time in the back of my engineering textbook. Holy crap, what is the roughness of this pipe? I don't know. Sorry, I'm sniffling. I have air blowing directly into my face. Archie Lang, thank you for the $4.99. First time watching live. I always recommend your channel to anyone who will listen. Thank you for the informative content you make. Love from Florida. Love to Florida. There's still a place down in Florida I want to go to, Turkey Point. Nuclear power plant. Instead of having cooling towers, Turkey Point in Florida has cooling canals where the hot water from the third loop of the nuclear reactor, PWR, comes out and gets cooled down in these switchback canals. But because they're slightly above ambient temperature of the other water around there, they attracted crocodiles who prefer the warmer water. And now for the last 30 years, there have been a refuge of endangered crocodiles outside of a nuclear power plant. And they use airboats like Steve Irwin, and they go and they check on them, and they look at their eggs, and they maintain their population. And I think that's awesome. You got me into nuclear? You got yourself into nuclear, big man. I was just the conduit. Your hair is especially extravagant today. Why does this feel like a supervillain lair? Me? In a super villain type lair? What? What about this seems potentially evil to you? What? What? Just because I avoided petty morality to bring my scientists down to the bottom of the ocean where they can conduct horrible genetic experiments without fear of repercussions from society? Is that why is a man not entitled to the flowing of his locks? No, says the man on Twitch. It belongs to just chatting. No, says the guy on YouTube. It belongs to the trending tab. No, says the guy on Kick. No, says the guy on Rumble. It belongs to right-wing grifters. I rejected those answers. That's why I came down here, where it's kind of cold, but it is safe. And Gregory's here too. Say hello to Gregory. AI should deliver media to humans based on prompts, not generate derivatives. That kind of thing. Library lookup, medical abnormality flagging, that kind of thing, says Ivy. I mean, if AI ever ends up curing some form of cancer, it's going to be because it has the power of being able to sense unsensible patterns that humans could never tease out from a gigantic amount of data. And that's going to be good. But also, there isn't enough anti-AI extremism. I'm giving I'm going to give a keynote in Texas in a couple of weeks to the nuclear industry. And one thing I want to point out is that we're going to need to disambiguate nuclear power from AI data centers. Make it very clear to the public that they are not intrinsically the same thing. Because the clock is ticking right now. And very soon, someone is going to firebomb a data center. And then it's going to happen a lot. I don't think we're very far from that happening. And then we're going to have a real situation on our hands. Rex, welcome. Kyle, get closer to me. Come here. Let's go back to the lab. Kyle, I worked as a research assistant for a machine learning project related to the electrical grid. We use AI to help analyze and compare other works. Does that ruin the trust of our research? Related to the electrical grid? I don't know. I don't know specifically what you're doing. See, in the end, I mean, if you're being rigorous, how much time does AI actually save you if it's still hallucination prone and you have to check everything anyway? Fix that lamp, darn it. I don't have the funds. Look how cold it is in here. That's true, Shy Guy Matt. Power generation from oil and gas and nuclear does use an incredible amount of water. But we've kind of already priced that in, right? And what people are worried about with the water use is increasing that amount. Kyle, do you think civilians should have access to high-quality image and video generation? If so, what about the risks? My man, I think social media was a mistake in general. I think it's ruined the fabric of society, destabilized democracies, made the most depressed and anxiety-prone generation of teenagers and young people that we have ever seen since we started recording such things. And then you have someone like Elon Musk who's trying to, stop people from suing him about being able to generate nude images of your 10-year-old. I mean, it's like I said, there are good use cases, but I can think of 1,000 bad ones. Dear Science Thor, says John with the 5. I had a less serious question. What do you think about the state of Magic the Gathering, Universes Beyond, and what the future of Magic is? It vacillates right now. I think there's too many Universes Beyond sets, but some of them are awesome. There's too many of those sets, but then something like Commander, all the spoilers of Commander Mystery Boosters, that set looks absolutely awesome and totally lore heavy and mechanically interesting. So I'm kind of back and forth. I'm actually playing Magic tonight with some Kevins in in a little bit. I'm going to stomp them. Anyway, Chad, would you like to go through a study about how old theoretically humans can get, or do you want to keep talking about this? Matzer, do you think He Who Shall Not Be Named will approve Yucca Mountain after the midterms? Could you do a video tour on it? For those not aware, the United States was poised to be the first country with a long-term, forever storage of nuclear waste site, Yucca Mountain. It's going to be literally buried in a mountain, which is kind of badass. Humans. Okay, let's do it. 1 second. So it was going to have Yucca Mountain, but then Obama canceled it. My position with the current administration's position on nuclear is that the nuclear industry is just kind of keeping our head down because things are kind of moving in a better direction than it has been in many years. And so while I can tell you off the record, many people in the industry do not agree with anything the administration is doing. But on nuclear stuff, they're like, okay, It's kind of a broken clock, right, twice a day situation. It's like, well, I guess I'll take it, you know. Anyway, let's talk one more topic, chat. This is a fascinating study. I love having numbers for stuff, because now after this, chat, you are going to be able to have a fun fact to tell anyone who will listen, that what the theoretical maximum human lifespan is. And then you're going to have additional little facts to say about it. Yeah, take the wins, take the W's where we can. I'm not talking about the politics of this, CNN. I'm not talking about where I'm saying it seems like the current administration's orientation towards nuclear power is beneficial. And so I'll take that. I'll take it. Because administrations are short and global power infrastructure is a long thing. You know, why don't you just ask AI? Shit. All right, Chad. This study is called Somatic Mutations Impose an Entropic Upper Bound on the Human Lifespan. What the heck does that mean, K-Man? First of all, it's Dr. K-Man, asterisk, but it's still real. Second of all, I'll tell you, somatic, all the cells in your body that aren't sex cells. So basically all the cells in your body. Mutations that accumulate over time in those cells during normal cell division, oxidation by free radicals, radiation damage, carcinogens, that kind of thing. And mutations that occur normally over time. That's what we call, it's part of what we call aging. Impose an entropic upper bound. So just as things decay, become less organized as entropy dictates over time. So what are we saying? The naturally accumulating mutations in the cell, most of the cells in your body, put an upper bound on the human lifespan. And what is that upper bound? Well, we could just go into the abstract and you could check it, but I'm not going to tell you yet. Because I want any good science viewer, like you, it is much more beneficial to go through how a study got to an answer than just giving you the answer. Same when I was in engineering, same in anything. The numbers don't matter. What matters is the process and how you got to those numbers. The equation, the numbers can be anything. It's the equation that's important. Okay. So aging is a highly complex, obviously, interdependent, multifactorial process. But some hallmarks of aging appear to be reversible. Telomere shortening, senescent cells. But a lot of therapies have yet to appear. If we want to know the upper bound on the human lifespan, we need to know the aging processes that seem unreversible, pure information loss or entropy increase, somatic mutations, as we said, mutations in your cell, random hits to chromosomes that accumulate over a lifetime and progressively impair cell function. Now you'd think, why would that happen in an organism such as we? Well, while natural selection strives to preserve DNA perfectly each time your cells divide in mitosis, perfecting its maintenance is too costly, and time alternatively spent on transcription and proliferation it's better spent there. So species tolerate mutation rates, allowing for their survival. So if you know anything about evolution, that makes perfect sense, right? In theory, evolution could have a pressure towards living forever, but if the DNA's job, or cells living forever rather, if the DNA's job is to proliferate itself, then there's actually a trade-off. some amount of age past sexual maturity is actually more beneficial than living forever, in terms of, because you don't have to live forever, you just have to reproduce. So what we're talking about today is the upper bound imposed by accumulating somatic damage, which causes cells to decline, which cause diseases, and what we call aging. In other words, what is all this strife in the world for? I like that. It's weirdly philosophical in here. So this work aims to estimate how long humans would live if we cured most aging processes except randomly accumulating somatic mutations, which we cannot reverse. So this is saying, okay, all of our cells accumulate mutations over time. That's just what happens during the transcription process in normal DNA, and there's carcinogens and radiation, all that. We can't really stop that. But what if we reversed aging on everything else that we know causes aging? How long could we live with only entropy to stop us? Like we're stars or something. How long could humans live? This is an interesting fact that's not related to what we're talking about right now, but there is actually a paradox in mammals, because larger species, which have many, many more cells, actually have fewer mutations. It makes perfect sense when you think about it, but we'll get to that. Okay. So what did they do? What did this study do? What the study did was try to make a model that incorporated base levels for all of this. So the first step was to establish a baseline model of how long humans could live if only natural background mortality rate was there. So let's say that all of your cells were immortal, but you still had car accidents and stuff. What would be the average age of a human if only death came for them? Not the senescence of cells, not mutations, you only got final destination. So in this first model, non-aging populations are not immortal. There's still death that acts on them. Now, this is a fascinating figure to me. If we start at age 30 and the mortality rate for people at age 30, which at this age people are active, employed, exposed to diverse hazards like car accidents, drug abuse, occupational hazards, diseases, etc., 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 the average human without any cellular aging could live for between 1,700 and 29,000 years. Okay? Isn't that cool? That's an interesting fact, right? If none of your cells, if all of your cells divided perfectly forever, there is still an upper bound on the universe coming for you at some point. But the median lifespan is 1,700 years. Slightly more. This indicating, of course, if the average age of death is less than 100 years, these numbers are implying that aging is really important. So what do they do next? To start incorporating aging. Next, they include the mutations that accumulate in arguably the most important cells in the body, in the brain and in the heart. These cells do not continuously divide. And so that's really important, because if these cells don't continuously divide, then accumulating mutations in these cells are going to be a kind of bottleneck, right? If you can't even replace these cells, if your body doesn't even replace these cells, seems like them accumulating more mutations will be even more impactful than other parts of the body, which we'll get to, like your liver, which can divide and replicate and regenerate, as you'll see, pretty amazingly. So we do that, and we combined our fixed immortality at age 30, and if we include the mutations that pick up over time in your brain cells and your heart cells, the median lifespan becomes 194 years to 208 years, or the maximum of 500 and 800 years. So even though this sounds like a lot of years, you can see, because this drops down so dramatically from 29,000, this seems like some kind of bottleneck in our heart, in our heart and in our brain. But because this is still well above the mortality that we observe in normal humans, somatic mutations and post-mitotic issues, while contributing substantially, cannot alone explain human mortality. So we have to look at the other organs that do continue dividing, right? Now, here's an interesting thing. Your hepatocytes, your liver cells, the cells in your lungs, these organs can basically replicate without significant degeneration forever. Look at this. Median time to reach the current critical threshold extends to 37,000 years. And for LPC-mediated hepatocyte, like liver cells, none of the simulated trajectories of failure reach organ failure within 100,000 years. Some of your organs could live for 100,000 years, much like the God Emperor of Dune himself, Duke Leto II. Now, this is interesting. This means that those cells accumulating mutations does not significantly contribute to human aging. That's interesting. That's something to know, right? It can accumulate mutations for 100,000 years and still not fail. Thank you for the 314. The Register. You going to make a camera, Kyle, to Hanford sometime? I would love to go to Hanford sometime. That's why livers are amazing. It's why I can drink so much. Moving right along. Yeah. So this is what I said. The individual contribution of somatic mutations in these organs is relatively negligible to aging. Okay, but that's not exactly how the body works, right? It's not that the brain or your heart or your liver or your lungs, they all function independent. They don't function independently. They interdepend on each other. If one thing starts to happen, then another thing might start to happen. If your liver gets damaged, then, if your lungs get damaged, and then your heart might get damaged because of the blood flow and the oxygen. So what do they do? They have to incorporate their organ-specific models into a multi-organ framework. Now, we don't have to get into what this framework is. There's a lot of math, reliability theory. I don't even know what that is. But if the organs depend on each other, where does the lifespan go? It's not 100,000 years like a liver can do. It might be more than that, less than 200 years that your brain cells can do. So this is the question, chat. I hope that you follow so far, because I think I've done a decent job describing what they're talking about. What they're talking about is, what if we were to eliminate all reversible mechanisms of aging, leaving only the irreversible mechanisms, such as mutations? How long could a human live? Our results suggest that even if all hallmarks of aging were eliminated, except for the ones we can't control, median human lifespans would only reach 146 to 194 years. This approximate twofold gap in median survival indicates that other hallmarks of aging likely contribute to at least as much to limiting the human lifespan as somatic mutations do. So what does that mean? That means because this 150 years is roughly twice the 79 years, they're saying that somatic mutations that you can't control contribute about half to aging, and all of the ones that we can control contribute the other half. Which, this sounds like not that many years, but this is technically saying that if we could find the clinically applicable ways to reverse the processes of aging that we can reverse, we could once again double the human lifespan, like hand washing and vaccines did. A key insight is that post-mitotic cells, like the neurons in your brain, act as critical longevity bottlenecks because under mutation pressure, they have they have maximum failure times of 500 years and 800 years, which is quite shorter than the 29,000-year non-aging baseline, and much less than for livers with stem cell support, which reach 100,000 years. Okay. Now, there's one more thing. They did some very nice diagrams of this, but this will help you finally understand what they're... Oh, my eyeballs. Finally understand what they're saying. Okay. So follow my little marker here. Okay. So of all the hallmarks of aging, what we are trying to figure out is if we ignore all the ones we might be able to reverse, like cheeseburgers here. I don't know what that... If we could reverse all the cheeseburgers in your diet, and we just focus on accumulating mutations, then we see that these mutations accumulate over time, and that seems to be correlated with age. So it seems like it causes aging, or what we call aging. Now, your survival probability over time is infinite if there's no aging. Normal aging, the oldest person we have on record is 122. But what if we remove all of these somatic mutation burdens? What does question mark and cheeseburger and question mark and a cheeseburger, what does the age increase to? Well, you have to look at the human body, some of the major organs being the brain, the lungs, the heart, and the liver. And if any of these fail, you die. So in the cell population of a liver, for example, once it accumulates enough mutations and enough cells are inactive or dead, you die. And this threshold gets closer to death over time. So if you only have accidental deaths, this is the background rate of death, mortality stays constant over time from those background rates. How does but mortality will increase the more mutations here, cheeseburger, here, that you accumulate over time. But once you incorporate other parts of the body that can have cellular regeneration, that mortality goes down. And this yields all of these different ages over time, up to 100,000 years for specific organs, etc., etc., etc. Looking at if we were to reverse everything about aging except for the entropic processes of accumulating mutations in our somatic cells, which we can't control, we might yet again double the human lifespan to about 150 to 190 years. That is the maximum right now that we think a human could live. That's that, chat. I hope, was any of that interesting? I hope that was interesting. I found the study very good. I said 158, nailed it. What What is the use of a 170-year lifespan when health span is only 60 years? Well, health and age those are the two things that are interrelated. So what they were what they were saying, they were not what I was doing with my fingers there, but they were saying that their threshold was organ failure, and so if you didn't have any of that organ failure or degeneration of the functionality of your organs, so then your health span would increase as well, I think is what they mean. So immortality is impossible. There is still a eccentric on YouTube. Immortality is only possible if there isn't a background rate of mortality. All populations go to zero on a long enough timeline. Something will get you eventually, right? If you live for a long enough time, and there is some percentage over that time of you dying, even if it takes 1 million years, you're still going to get Ebola at some point. Maybe that's a bad example. You're going to get in a car accident, or you're going to a shelf is going to fall on you at work when you're closing and no one's around to hear your scream. Sorry, I don't know why I made that so dark sounding. To eliminate death, you'd have to eliminate the causes of death. This is very fun. I hope that it's fun. I like going through scientific papers with you guys. I like trying to, you can kind of see me learning in real time too, and I hope that you do as well. I'd simply dodge it. No. 120 years would be nice, but I'll take what I can. Hey, me too, man. The point of your life is to live it. Go live it, baby. Kyle and his villain cycle? What do you mean cycle? Yeah, given enough time, the probability of death becomes 1, even if it takes 100 million years. If the cause of death for something is 1 in a million, eventually you will be that one. Eventually. Over an infinite timescale. You will get struck by lightning at some point. And what if we replace the somatic cells with freshly grown lab ones? I suppose the upper limit is just where the brain bottleneck's at. Yeah, no, I think they said that in the paper. Orcane Vault on YouTube has a great point. There's another bottleneck where, okay, what if you could grow a new heart from your own cells? And then replace your heart. There's still another bottleneck because replacing your brain is a different thing entirely. And you might not even be you anymore. John with the 5 as our science Thor. What would be your Mjolnir equivalent item or weapon? It would be the elephant's foot on a chain whip, like a mace thing, but it'd be part of the elephant's foot. No, I'd beat death. You say that, and then like those Chinese animations of workplace accidents, you're caught in a lathe. Hey, Robbie. Thoughts on Brian Johnson? I've never seen a man look so good and so bad at the same time. Brian Johnson looks like a wax figure of himself. And I don't trust anybody with that much money. And he seems like a weirdo. They're all weirdos. I don't trust him. He was just talking about growing a baby for himself to harvest their organs. My sister in Christ, that is a sci-fi movie that it's called The Island, and the moral of the story is to not do that. You moron. Ah, yes, I just finished reading this amazing book. Please, for the love of God, don't build the Torment Nexus. And what I'm taking away from this is that I should build the Torment Nexus. You idiot. Oh, man. Why? When people like him and Elon and Sam Altman and all these other guys, whenever they reference science fiction, it is so clear that they have no reading comprehension. Mark my words, Elon will say something about 1984 in a positive way. He'll be like, well, they did it in 1984 and it worked out for them. And everyone's going to be like, dude, they just always miss the point. It's like Sam Altman just got totally ratioed on Twitter. He said, I came up with a fun AI hack. I don't know if he talks like this. I had my AI come up with a podcast that I listen to every morning that tells me what my partner's doing, what my kids are doing, their interests, and, you know, I learn about them that way. And the first reply had like 10 times as many retweets, and it said, why don't you just talk to your kids? Have you tried talking to your family instead and learning about them? It's wild. It's wild. Thank you for the fun. Such absolute hilarity. I'm not being funny. I'm being serious. It's crazy how little. Chat. I know it annoys you the same way it annoys me. It's like you're all nerds because you're watching me. When you so clearly understand something more than someone with so much more resource than you, it's irritating. It's like, dog, I would have a maker lab in every university in the world tomorrow if I had your money. I would double the base pay for every high school teacher in the country yesterday. But instead, what you choose to do with your time and your money is have progressively bad takes on a increasingly bot overrun social media platform. Why? Go away. Shut up. Do something. Do something nice. Well, I know they told us in that classic sci-fi novel not to make the automatic dick-punching robot, but I have a surprise. You can pre-order it now. Ah, yes. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're so smart. Oh. Emerald mines? Who? Who said that? Who said emerald mines? No one cares about that. Dick-punching robot. Now available in 2 colors. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Oh. Oh. Genius, 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 genius. Oh, I'm losing my mind a little bit. Frecky got some Robert Heinlein recommendations for me. The Cat Who Walks Through Walls, Sail Beyond the Sunset, Job, A Comedy of Justice. All right. I need to read some Heinlein for sure. Call me when the VJ punching machine is available. I have great news. Coming in 2029. And it only uses as much water as a golf course. Oh. What about the emerald mines? Who said that? Who said that? What about the technology making nude images of people's children for free at scale? What? Who? Who said that? Huh? What? 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 You could spend just the interest from the investment of $1 trillion somewhere to solve homelessness. Period. But instead, what you do with your time is wear a leather jacket on camera poorly. Can you not even afford a stylist? I know that's literally, it's impossible. What about the emerald mines? Hey! 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 Who said that? Well, I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. But but it's making me laugh. Hey! What? Oh, what? What would you do with $1 trillion? I would. Okay, I'm going to be serious for a second. We know. Okay. There are groups of people that spend all of their time trying to actually quantify which charities do the most good and which, if you alleviated, which stressors could you alleviate from human life that would have the most impact? I would, on day one, as your trillionaire president of the world, I would get every leading NGO, nonprofit, public health, social psychologist, all the top ones in the world, day one. Thank you for the 2. Everyone in my office now. You, Egghead. You go into the room with all these other experts and you give me the top 10 things that would have the most direct, immediate impact on human well-being in their respective countries. You have 1 hour.
Here you go. Here you go, sir. It's infant mortality and actually mosquito nets and running water and sanitation. And here's the full list.
Don't get that out of my face, you nerd. Here's a check. Do it.
But sir, it's going to cost $100 billion.
Don't care. That's 10%. I'll earn that back like this from my moon colonies. Do it.
But sir, we don't know how to figure it out.
Why is the only person doing nice things with their money the one who divorced Jeff Bezos? I don't know. Back to the lab. Losing my mind. I didn't mean to yell at you. It's our first live sciencey podcast thing back in a little while. I'm having a good time with all of you. But I do have to skedaddle down the hall there to clear off the table from... There's a lot of pathogens on the table down there, and that's where we're playing Magic in a little bit with some of my Kevin, so I got to clear that off. Will the stream be uploaded? Yes, of course. It'll be on YouTube. Chat, did you have a good time? It's been a while. It's been a couple months since we did this. I think since... Oh, no. We did the Space Data Center thing. Hey! Maybe remember when we did that Space Data Center episode? And that SpaceX thing? And then a lot of people were like, to the moon. There's no way that stock's gonna crash. Remember that? Yeah, go. Woo. This is my first stream and I loved it. Well, thanks for being here. Very interesting take right here, so we'll take it before we go. Beep Boop with the 10. I actually look up to Hank for using AI publicly. It's a tool and I don't want to shame people into not using it when other people will certainly use it to great effect, health issues notwithstanding. I appreciate you for not having the majority take here, and I salute you. But I would say that part of people's problem, Beep Boop, is that Hank wasn't using it publicly. His company very publicly said in their AI statement that AI is not being used for anything. And so it is the apparent hypocrisy there that is rubbing people the wrong way. To be fair, that is one of the major issues. If Hank was publicly using ChatGPT this whole time and telling everyone about it, I think the blowback would have been slightly worse. I can't speak. I think the blowback would have been less. But instead, this is the worst version of that. You know what I mean? Are you the person who played Najila on Play to Win? Yes. What are your advices on how to play the deck for beginners in CEDH? Says no, bro. Yeah, I love the Play to Win boys. They're like brothers to me. I like playing on their channel. Yeah, I played Najila. Now that Najila is kind of a 5-color sloppy kind of thing, I would use Najila and its ability to 2-card combo very easily as a distraction for going for Thoracle or Intuition lines. Always keep pressuring the possible instant Najila win while focusing on slamming an alternative win con when everyone's resources are used up. Is this duel streamed on Twitch? It is. What game? Magic the Gathering. Chat, I had a great time. I was honestly very nervous about this, but I think it went well. You can go back on YouTube, watch the full VOD if you missed it. I hope it was instructive. I hope it was interesting. I kind of lost my mind at the end a little bit there, but I hope that was entertaining at least. Chat, if you want to do this kind of thing every day with me, go on the main channel, check out the videos that we have there. You can go on our Discord, talk with me each and every day, and hundreds of other nerds just like yourself. That's patreon.com/Kyle Hill if you want to join there. Get videos early, live streams, private ones with me, winkity winkity wink. And yeah, I would love to have you there. I'd love to have your support if you enjoyed this, because our videos are getting throttled by detection tools on YouTube. Just like Kurzgesagt and Real Engineering, and we are struggling. So I appreciate, just like a lot of other of my colleagues, but I appreciate you. I appreciate your time, of course. No matter where I see you next time, until that next time, be nice to each other, okay? Because this is all we got. Nathan, for the 5, I appreciate you. Specifically. See you guys soon.